Hello, welcome to another weekly video. Today I'm going to be talking about does God make mistakes? Um, Growing up, I sometimes had that thought and I had that question in my mind with some of the things that I saw people go through and the things that I saw myself go through. Um, I kind of didn't really understand why um, God, well, it's not really God causing problems, but to me, sometimes it looked like God was responsible for some of the bad things that would happen to people. Um, like if someone was born with a genetic defect or a mental illness, um, I guess I tended to think that it was God who was responsible for it. I think your mind tends to look at it like, well, if God created everything, why would He create something um, with defects? I guess that's the best way to explain it. Um, Problems, maybe it doesn't look the same. There are people with Down syndrome that don't look the same as everybody else, and it can just make you wonder, like, why was the person born this way? Why did they have this problem? And so, I tended to just think, well, God makes mistakes. Um, but that's not really what the real issue is. I'll use I'll use my life for an example with this. Like I had ADHD. I was diagnosed with it when I was young, um, and I've found out that I have depression and the ADHD specifically. I always tended to think that um, God just made a mistake when He made me. I guess actually going back to that verse, excuse me, that verse that a lot of people will quote to you. It goes something like, "He formed you in His mother's womb," or "He knew you before He formed you," something like that. And it's just like if God knows that much about me and He takes that much time with me, how could this have happened? How could I have gotten ADHD if He supposedly, spent all this time like forming me and knowing who I am and things like that. Um, I guess it just felt like, like I said, God made a mistake, and um, I was just born with this issue. But as I've gotten older, I've started to understand a lot more about that kind of thing. Specifically, more about how much God can control humans, how much Satan is involved in our lives, how much human choices affect things. Those are three different areas that affect certain things like that. Mental illness. Sometimes, and I know this might be confusing, but sometimes we make choices in our life that that have consequences too. Um, and I mean, I think we've heard examples like this. If you smoke the entire pregnancy while you are, like I said, pregnant, you will have possible birth defects. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Not that, not that my um, mother that I know of smoked. I'm not trying to say that. I think the gray areas always come in where, like, you, excuse me, you don't know what happened. Like there's no physical cause to the problem. Like I said, it's kind of black and white. or it's straightforward if you see a mother smoking and the child comes out with a birth defect. I mean, that's kind of straightforward. But the things that may be confusing may be when when you don't see any straightforward cause to something. And that's what I run into a lot. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people hide things. Like parents will hide things they've done. For example, like I don't have any proof of this or anything, but sometimes I think that my mother did things to me while I was in the womb that I don't know about, and sometimes she was really secretive. She just wouldn't talk about something like that. So um, it there are things that like you may just not know about, but you know, assuming that my mother didn't have any drugs while she was pregnant, it is confusing to know what went wrong. And I mean, I know a lot of people don't like to look at it like there's something wrong with you. That's not really what I'm saying. It can feel pretty bad to have this disadvantage in life. I guess I'll say it like that. I battled depression for many years, and I try not to look at it like there's something wrong with me, but it is a major disadvantage. So I guess I'll try to um, say it like that. Like, why was I born with this disadvantage in life? Why are others born with the disadvantages they are? Um, I mean, the closest thing I can come to is a lot of it really is genetics. I've um, talked to my mother, or I guess from an outsider, tried to have some perspective and learn about her life enough to know that she's battled depression. I'm pretty sure it just went through my family line, and it does seem to be something that's just passed down. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do something to change that yourself when you have a child. I do think, and maybe this is more on the technical side, but I do think we are like born with genetic predispositions, but there are things in life that bring it out or not. So, like, maybe I'm born with a depression gene, to oversimplify it probably, but maybe I'm born with the depression gene, and if nothing happens to activate it during my life, then I don't have to go through that. But um, a lot of people tend to have these issues come out while they're in their environment, I guess you could say, to cause a problem like that, like depression, like I said. Um, so mainly, I guess I'm just trying to say that like God doesn't make mistakes. There's like a part that is Satan, and it is probably easiest to trace back to Adam and Eve. I say a family line. Sometimes a person marries into another family that has, um, I'll call it a disadvantage, a curse in their lineage, and it comes into yours through your children. That kind of stuff happens, but it's easiest to trace back to Adam and Eve, like I said. Um, they committed the first sins and caused curses to come into the their family and all their children, which I guess technically were descendants of them. Um, so that's kind of maybe a simplified way to explain that. You know, it's not God. Um, I don't even know if you could just say it's Satan. There's our human behaviors and choices that affect a lot of things too. And I'm still learning how much control Satan has and God has, how much of us are just human. Um, there's there's three aspects to me to everything. So so it kind of just goes to that to me instead of God making mistakes. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there, and I thank you for watching. Have a nice day.